Jury room, dog.
Actually, if you want.
I'd be staring out the window. I'm staring out there. Maybe
Safe.
blue.
Oh, that's right. And do we?
Wow.
Okay, it's probably the other day.
4 o'clock, so I would like to call the meeting to order. We'll start with approval of the minutes. Did everyone get a chance to review them?
Motion approved.
I have one recommendation for edit, and it's just a misspelling on section 7, the roles and responsibilities when I spoke. There's a line where it states it should say it needs to be a little bit more formal, and it's but B-U-T.
Oh.
That was all.
Thanks.
My only recommendation for edit. Any second?
Second guy.
All right.
All in favor of approval of the minutes with a single edit?
All right, all right.
Aye.
Aye.
Thank you.
Okay, do we have any topics from the floor?
Go.
Is there anybody online?
Anyone online?
It's online now. Just members.
Nope, okay. All right, moving on. I'm not sure if everyone saw the email, but the interviews will be postponed until the next month's meeting due to illness. And then we will go on to item number 3, Friends Group for McCormick Park.
And now you.
So, Emily Wilson contacted us and she wants to put together a group to remove invasive species at McCormick Park. She lives in the area. Like, for example, she wrote blackberry, Scotch broom, English holly, shining geranium, and I can't pronounce. So I just thought I'd bring that to you guys. I don't know what really, she filled out an application. I haven't seen it yet. So it's in the process. And when I get that, there is, I don't know if you've all read this resolution on how to do that.
For the formation of
Oh,
Friends
this is a
Group.
different one. Never mind. The formation of the Friends, I don't know how that, what the policy is on that or how that works, or if it's just really informal, or if you could just fill out a volunteer form and go do this work, or.
Is her intention to form a Friends Group, or is her intention to just do like cleanup?
It says she would like to start a friends group focused on the removal of invasive plant species and the creation of habitat for our local wildlife. It's easy to spot invasive plants, including blah, blah, blah. I look forward to serving on this relationship with the city to increase the value of our public.
Beautiful.
So.
If I could-
Yeah,
Yeah, I believe also in some place on the city's website, there is like a brochure that talks about what you get when you become a friends group. You can sometimes borrow tools and the assistance that you can get. And that you then kind of become more of a park steward also. So I believe there's a write-up somewhere in the.
I'll have to look harder. I must have looked past that.
If there isn't, there was at one time, and hopefully it's still there.
Do you have an operating model for?
I think we've talked to her and she wants, I think she may have talked to Caroline, so she wants to know how we're doing it. The friends groups were started so that it could have a little bit of organization, but it wasn't incredibly formal and, enough to make you go.
The thing is, I don't think it really needs.
Mhm. Mhm.
I'm all for it.
Oh, yeah, yeah.
Free labor, I love it.
I would,
Yeah, I was gonna say you have a lady that wants to get together before we even.
yeah.
I would love to have another one listed on this.
Tell her my address, go.
I'm giving mine too.
Yeah.
I would love to have another one listed because actually Nob Hill is the only one listed under friends groups on the website.
So if she wants to contact somebody, can I give her your contact?
Yeah,
information?
yeah, yeah. And I think she's already talked to Caroline too.
Yeah, Dalton Lake had a friend.
And I would, I'll give her a little help and stuff.
Facebook group.
Yeah, I
I
think it's a-
thought there was a friend.
That's more of a, she calls us.
No, it's, excuse me, it's just a Facebook page and nobody really responds to it. They post pictures, but nobody responds as far as working on the work parties that we have. So it's just something to be part of. they look at the pictures and
Uh-huh.
let us know if branches are down.
All right, thank you, Lynn.
Any further discussion on that topic?
I don't have anything else. I just wanted to bring it up.
Yeah.
Okay, all right, so that would be moving on to old business for the roles and responsibilities. And I've spent a lot of time over the last couple of months drumming through our bylaws, like what is appropriate, what is not appropriate, and taking your guys' feedback into consideration. And not only that, but considering what would be best for the commission currently and moving forward. Yes.
I don't know if you wanted to ask her questions. One that was talking about the Friends group.
Oh, great.
I didn't know if that was a hand up or if that was.
Emily, we were just discussing the Friends group for McCormick Park. Is there anything that you wanted to state about that, or you have any questions?
I'm just interested in helping clean up the park from some of the invasives that are around the park and trying to improve the nature trails and stuff that are there by including some more native plants. I'm sure assuming it gets approved, I will have lots of questions about what would be expected of someone leading a Friends of group and how working with the city works. But at this time, I'm a bit of a fly on the wall.
So Howard was mentioning that there may be some language on the website, and that he may be available as a resource, for questions. I think we're all super in support of having the additional help and are grateful for your motivation to do so.
Mm-hmm. Great.
Because I believe you talked to Caroline Skinner a little bit too about it.
I did, yeah.
That's my partner, so you can talk to me or her and we'll give you what little knowledge we have to it too.
Great.
Awesome. Okay. Great. So then we can move on to officially move on to item number 4. And so as I was mentioning before, I've done a lot of research on bylaws and how we've been acting and what I feel has been working, what hasn't been working, or areas that we could benefit from improvement. And I know I mentioned at the last meeting, I didn't really want to change per se what we're doing, but I did feel that some clarity was needed. And so after doing a lot of research, I have kind of reformulated my thoughts. So I have some talking points that I handed out to each of you. And I'd like to go over them and with my proposed suggestions moving forward. And then I would love your guys' feedback. So this is in regards to consideration for updating the process for assigning parks, responsibilities, and an assessment or reporting tools. This would be in lieu of updating the bylaws. So it would not be a recommendation to update the bylaws. This would just be a tool utilized for our action as far as our roles with the park assignments. And so reasons for my recommendation. So during my tenure on the Parks and Trails Commission for the City of St. Helens, I've noted some inconsistencies in regards to the park assignments aspects of the commission. These inconsistencies include, but are not limited to, the number of parks assigned to each commissioner, level of responsibilities for activities or actions in the individual parks, allocation of funds for park needs, ability for commissioners to participate in parks that they would prefer versus what parks are available for assignment, frequency and content of reporting to the commission, and advocacy for improvements, cleanups, etc. I recognize that each commission member has their own individual time and resource requirements, as well as individual visions and passions related to our parks and trails. As commission members, it is our duty to serve our parks, our city leaders, and our public as a whole combined team. In effort to uphold our mission and purpose as outlined in Article 2 of our bylaws, I would like to make the following recommendations for change in the way we operate our park assignments. These changes would be intended to aid with transparency, improve and maintain cooperation among commission members, ease those commission members with time constraints to maintain equal and active roles in the commission, provide a framework for minimum reporting standards, assist with gathering information for the annual presentation to City Council, offer opportunity for additional eyes and input on all of our parks and trails, and improve efficient use of meeting times. Changes would not be intended to inhibit or limit any commission member from volunteering additional hours or resources as desired in any given park of their choosing, limit the ability for any commission members to be active in any park or trail, restrict commission members from forming friends of groups for any parks, or gathering additional resources for any parks as they wish. Plan for assignment. And this was through kind of my own feedback, but also feedback from other commission members over the last couple of years. So rotation of park assignments on a quarterly basis. So it could be like every 3 months, rotating the park assignments. Each park would be appointed to one commissioner at a time, and assignments would be given at random during a Parks and Trails meeting. The plan for assessment and reporting. So this would be utilization of an assessment tool, content as agreed upon by the commission members and city staff. Commission members would be responsible for visiting assigned parks once each month. Commission members would be responsible for submitting assessment tool to city staff by the due date for our agenda items for each parks meeting, including volunteer hours for documentation, which we have discussed numerous times on wanting to improve our documentation for volunteer time. So this would be a great tool for that. Assessment tools would then be utilized for the park updates as needed in lieu of assigned months as previously practiced. So instead of having each month 1 or 2 parks discussed as a whole with a long agenda item, since these assessment tools would be frequented across the desk of Buck, staff, and all the commission members, we wouldn't necessarily have to have a large presentation on any given park because we would have just regular updates. It would be a standing item on, I'm sorry, what?
Run that by again, Dana.
Yeah, so as we've been trying to do it for the last couple of years, right?
So basically, we've been trying to go at least one park every meeting.
Right, we'd schedule, right? But it doesn't always work out because either people miss it, other things come up, and also all the presentations are a little bit different, right? Like I know I went above and beyond what was required because I didn't understand the expectation of what I needed to present. Where this would be a standardized tool, super easy, basically a checklist. And then it's just submitted prior to the meeting. So everybody gets to see just the bullet point things. And then if there's something big that we need to discuss from all of those things, it would just be a standing item on the agenda each month where all of the assessment tools could be like reviewed, any important items that are required. So that would be in lieu of doing a big presentation. So no one would have to do a big monthly presentation anymore. And then, and that the chair or whomever could read based on the submitted assessment tools, or if a person submitted something and they wanted to discuss that item specifically at the meeting during that time, they could. But that would just to make efficient use of our meeting times and standardize the amount of time that we spend discussing the parks. The assessment tools may be included in the agenda packet. That way everybody can look at what information was brought forth. And then the assessment summaries could potentially be utilized for formation of future master plans. And this I thought would be a fantastic concept of having continuous up-to-date just assessment of our parks so that when they are ready to do a new master plan, they have all the research information already right there and they wouldn't have to do a bunch more assessment, which could potentially save the city quite a bit of funds. The assessment tools would also then be utilized as needed for addressing park needs by city staff because Buck would have access to viewing them, in addition to compiling the presentation for the annual update to city council. So something that has been an issue since I've been on the commission is gathering information from everybody for their parks for the presentation to city council each year. But if we're rotating through what parks we're required to report on and we have a standardized information that we're reporting on them, it'd be so easy to compile that information for the annual update so that each park gets the attention that it requires when discussing with city council. The proposed components for the assessment tool would have, I kind of envision it as just like a bullet line for each of these, where if it applies, you fill it out. If it doesn't apply, you don't fill it out. And it would be safety concerns, structures, condition, repairs, etc., amenities, what's currently there, if you have recommendations for others, trees and other foliage, including invasive species, observed visitor use and feedback, if any, proposed park cleanups for the upcoming timeframe, potential for community engagement, and anything a commissioner feels that requires staff attention, and then a spot for volunteer hour tracking. The way I envision it is each person, we assign to a park with the amount of commissioners. If we have a full commission, each person would get 1, maybe 2 parks. So there wouldn't be doubled up for each of the parks with multiple commission members on multiple parks. You have that assignment for 3 months. You go once a month for maybe an hour, 5 minutes if it's Walnut, but
Yeah, like 6th Street, you're gonna be like 5 minutes.
and you're done. And all you do is like, you go through and like, is there safety concerns? Is there something I need to bring up to Buck? How's everything looking? Cool, boom, 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 boom. And you submit it in time for the next meeting and then it's done. So it could be a very efficient way to get numerous eyes on the parks because each individual commission member has a different perspective. They have a different way of viewing things. They have different goals and intentions for the commission and their parks. And this would be a really great way to spread that love around to all of the parks. And as I said earlier, in no way should this inhibit the actions taken for parks that we're passionate about. So like Howard could still do all of the volunteer effort that he loves to and requires for Nob Hill, because I don't want to diminish the effort that's being done on the parks already. We're doing such a wonderful job. But I feel like this could check a few boxes all at once and share the load for everybody with a nice, consistent reporting tool that can be utilized for so many different things.
I think it's a good idea.
I think it's a great idea, but it won't work for me. I mean, for me, every 3 months to have to explain what our mission and what we're trying to achieve at Nob Hill could become a real drag.
Yeah, so it's not like that. So what you would do is every single month, you go visit your park one time and you fill out your checklist and you just drop it off at the meeting or drop it off to city before then. So you guys wouldn't have to do a presentation.
Each one of us has different expertises in the particular.
Right, that's why we
Exactly.
rotate. That's why we rotate. So let's say you have Nob Hill, right?
Yeah.
You know everything that's there.
Yeah.
I very rarely visit Nob Hill. I might go in there and see something that you walk by every day and be like, hey, that's different. Why? And then
Yeah.
But then it could become an issue because 3 or 4 times a year, we'll have people questioning what we're trying to achieve
Yeah.
in the park.
So you could
And
also,
so that's just more paperwork and possibly takes away from, we gave over almost over 200 hours of our own time. I don't want to have to start
Well, Howard,
guessing.
no, you wouldn't have to change that though. You can keep doing all of that. And if you wanted
Yeah.
to,
Yeah.
you
Yeah.
could track that because we really do need to be better about volunteer hour tracking for everybody
You'll
too.
notice that Nob Hill has some of the best volunteer tracking
Yeah.
of any city park.
You guys
in the-
Howard, this gives you a chance to visit other parks too.
I can do that now. We can change park assessments. I think that it should be longer than 3 months. You can't understand fully what's in a park in 3 months.
Well,
You're
that's,
only looking at a fraction of the weather, everything that
Right,
goes on
that's-
there.
That's why you rotate, you get to see different parks at different times and different
Mhm.
views.
so this is not, so that you can understand my mind frame here. So what this is not doing is changing what you're already doing with your strong efforts for the projects that you're
Add
passionate
another
about.
person that's gonna be asking questions
No,
3 times a year.
they're just going through once a month, looking at the things and updating. That's it. And that way each
Well,
person
would I
doesn't,
still be able to give the same exact comments that they are in there.
yeah, if you'd like to, not a problem.
You know, I mean, I'm so wrapped up in that area. I just don't need to be trying to think of how to be managing.
I tell you what, this would give, like, for me, I have 6th, 7th Street Park.
Uh-huh.
I go there, I just look at it. It's 2 ball fields. That's all it is. This gives me a chance to go to some of the other parks and check them out. It gives me a reason to go to the other parks and check them out.
Uh-huh. Uh-huh.
And for me, it's really helpful because I like to have kind of a bare minimum assessment tool so that I know what I'm looking for. And I don't have to give you guys a 45-minute presentation that, you know, makes your ears bleed.
Yeah, and you have, like Dana said too.
Lynn has a question, excuse me. Lynn?
Yeah, I think we're making it a little bit more difficult. I know you're trying to organize things and change things, but it's a little more, it sounds more difficult than I think it really is. And I know that when I first came on parks, all of us were visiting anytime that they wanted. And if they noticed something like maybe somebody was living in the park or a bench had been broken or anything else, we just came to the table at the meeting and talked about it. You know, but I myself go to all the parks. And I just don't stay at one. And also, I've never made a presentation on my updates more than anything like everything from 5 to only 15 minutes at the very most. Because when you're doing updates, it's not every month. Usually it's every 3, it could be 6 months till you got the bench in or till you got a new kiosk. Or, I mean, it's ever changing. And I think it would take the eye off the parks by not having people assigned to them. They are free to go to any of the parks and comment on them. All the commissioners are. And to help in any of the parks, anytime that somebody needs the help. That's all they had to say. So I'm with Howard. You know, I think it's making it more difficult, and we always keep maintenance abreast of things that are going on. Or if we need help with gravel, or it's just really, I think we're making it more difficult than it used to be.
So I respect your statements, but perhaps I'm not being clear in what the expectations would be.
I understand.
So for, let's adjust a couple of things. So the standing item on the agenda for 10 to 15 minutes to address issues. So what that would be, so if everybody goes with their checklist and it takes them, 10 minutes to fill out once a month at whatever park they have for that month, they go through, they send it via email prior to our meeting so that everybody can look at it. Everybody can see in that whether or not they are safety concerns, whether or not there's anything that needs attended to. Buck has access to read through it and review it. So then that 10 to 15 minutes as the standing item on the agenda would only be to discuss, say, like red line items, like things that really need attention, or things that Buck saw and was like, hey, cool, I saw that, I got that, this is our plan. Or say there's something that comes up and comes up and comes up and comes up, but we're maybe not seeing progress the way we expected. It would give an opportunity to see like, oh, I remember we talked about that at that, last month. Here's our progress on it. What it would do is it would remove the requirement for us individually to create and present any presentation, because this is a quick sheet. You're not having to speak about it. You just send it over. But if there's something that really requires additional explanation, or that you feel that you want to discuss, you can. There's nothing that's inhibiting that. Again, these are things that we're already doing in action. This is just a quick little check off sheet that allows documentation. It allows something that can be visible for review. It can check for and assess for efficacy in what we're doing in the parks as a reminder for maintenance and other commissioners. And it doesn't take away from what anybody is already doing for any parks that they're already passionate about. Instead, it just gives every single commission member the incentive to just stop by whatever park it is for that 3 months for an hour. And then that's it, because it takes zero time at all. It doesn't add really any additional things, except you're just going, you're doing what already, but you're submitting proof that you did it is all.
It's good data collection.
It's just data collection. Exactly. Lynn?
I'm against paperwork.
So
Another
the
10
data collection
park.
that you want is already conveyed to maintenance if you have a problem. The thing is, you got a checklist. You're not going to be reporting on things every single month.
Correct.
If botanical gardens, I want to know what's happened in the last year there. So far, we haven't got any reports in the last year.
Right.
And so what I would do is just go there. And then I'd come back and ask questions. It's not that hard, really. But and a lot of people, quite frankly, don't like to walk, don't want to walk around the parks. They want to take care of what they're taking care of and doing what they're doing. And everybody has a different level of effort that they can put in the parks. Some people are working, some people are retired, some people have a big piece of property they got to work on. I mean, so we have developed something where we're all updated on what's happening, if anything is happening at the park.
And that's where I disagree that we're being efficient on that, because we haven't had updates on all of the parks this year, even though we intended to. We don't have the same level of attention to all the parks, even though that is the intention of the park assignments.
So who all has McCormick Park? Just an example. It's me and someone else and someone else. All has. Right.
I don't think I do.
Well, let's say me, Jerry, and Scott have McCormick.
Right.
I'm gonna go there and let's say I'm gonna do my little checklist here. There's gonna be things that I miss because I don't know. Like I can look at the fields and tell you exactly how the field should be, if there's any safety concerns or whatever with the fields. Jerry might come along behind me and be like, hey, look, this invasive species, poison ivy. I've never seen poison ivy or poison oak. I don't know what it looks like. I'm gonna miss it. Now Jerry's seen it because I missed it. It wasn't on my report, but Jerry's got it on his. So that, I think it's a great idea.
And it would be where each park only has one commission member at a time, but because it's rotating, then we're able to see the things. So again, each individual person has less work to do, because instead of having 2 or 3 parks, or for each park having 2 or 3 commission members, it's one commission member at a time that's officially assigned to report on it. And then you shift to another one. But it doesn't mean that you as an individual commission member can't go to the park and look and bring back things that you see anyway. If you have the time, you have the ability, you have the intention to go and visit, there's no reason why you cannot. This just gives a standard base assessment tool that can be utilized for information gathering. It can be utilized for grant opportunities in the future, for creating a master plan in the future, and for sharing that load. Because Lynn, you're 100% correct that each and every single one of us has different time allocations that we can provide for the commission. But we have lost members in the last year because they felt that the expectation and time expectation of themselves, they couldn't meet up to for the commission. This would take 5 to 30 minutes to complete once a month, which is super healthy and appropriate, versus, you know, for me, my interpretation of having a park assignment was that I had to go all the time. I had to go and work on big projects. I felt this weight of expectation and responsibility with zero clarity on what that actually was, which made me unable to effectively advocate and make progress in my parks. So this is just eyes, rotating eyes, quick little assessments, a tool that we can use for tracking and documentation purpose, which really is very little. But if you want to continue to do a lot of work for any individual park or all of the parks, by all means do so. right? This just would eliminate our need to have big presentations set up at any given month. And then we can use the information quick, easy gathering because it's all in one place for our annual update to city council.
Yeah, but I want to comment on this.
Mm.
Okay, when we started this process,
Yeah.
Dana knew that I wasn't for it. You know, and I voiced my opinion at the time, you know, after looking at this, there's some aspects of this that I do like. There really are some aspects of it, but there are some aspects I do not like.
Mhm.
Like one, I prepared presentations for 2 parks. And so last time I think, hey, let me give my presentation for one of them, okay? It took me 5 minutes, okay? So one of the things I don't like about this is that we don't communicate with each other. Because I think if we take 5 to 15 minutes to discuss a park every time, I think that's good. I would like to know what people think of Nob Hill Park. I think that when we get, you know, it's like giving messages, email messages. You know, sometimes people just do that all the time. I read this thing that says, hey, you know, every 5 times, if you're talking to this person, I mean, email them, you should, you know, probably be a good idea if you call them and talk to them. I think not having a verbal presentation leaves a big part of this out of it, because I want to know what's happening at other parks.
So-
Okay, wait, let me, Dana, my turn.
Okay.
Okay, so one of the things was, the reason these reports weren't given was because they weren't put on the agenda, you know, and that was the responsibility of the chairman to put those on.
Well, we got rid of him.
Yeah, the guy, he was the loser to begin with. But if they're on there, we know that they're on there and we're given. So one is the one thing I have against it. I don't think it was a big thing. Okay. Report. I don't know if it's really necessary. Well, okay. I won't go there. Rotation of parks on a quarterly basis. You know, I can see kind of like Jacob saying, you know, I didn't, you know, at first, you know, I live right by, you know, the Botanical Gardens. I live right by Godfrey, well, pretty close to Godfrey Park. I'm going to those parks all the time. So, you know, I know those parks really pretty well. I can see your point, you know, hey, let's do that. But I don't know if we need to, like Lynn was saying, I mean, it gets pretty damn cumbersome when, you know, we couldn't even agree to keep the agendas on here once a month to give reports,
But
you know.
how many times have we had to go through the agenda, we didn't have time to do the parks?
Yeah.
Or we had to skip a park because somebody was
Yeah,
sick and didn't do it.
that's
Or, you know, when was the last time we actually gave a report on the park?
Last time.
The,
Been months.
in my defense,
I did it.
Jerry, we did have assigned times, you know, for these presentations. All right.
Okay.
So that would, oh,
And
sorry.
the other thing too, you know, you look at the assessment tool. You know, I still think that there should be something, you know, verbally given. And if you go through the, what do we call this thing? The Parks and Trails Master Plan, you know, every time when I give it, I'd say, okay, this was a nature park and this is what a nature park is. And I give a few facts that were kind of in here. So I think there's some things that, you know, could be on here. And I just think that this system will just kind of collapse on itself because I think there's, you know, there's too much rotation in there. You know, I think one, we should have okay, so I'll shut up, say, one is I think we should have a verbal, I think we should, you know, verbally talk so everyone can know what the park's like. And two, I don't think the rotation should be as quickly as, I don't have any trouble with if I get assigned to, you know, another park. That would, you know, I can see Jacob's point on that. Yeah, I'll go take a look at it. You know, I can do that. But I just think knowing as a loose organization that we are, And we couldn't even do this once a month, or once every time. I just think, as a group, we're gonna have a hard time doing this once every time.
Well, I think,
I'm not done. And, it's like Buck, I don't know if Buck needs a report every month on every park to see, what's going wrong with it. I mean, I've given the report on Botanical Gardens probably 4 times or 5 over the times. Every recommendation I have, nothing's been done, now we've had cleanups. And we're thinking about maybe doing another one this year, possibility, 3 of us here. But that hasn't been I lost my train of thought. What was I talking about?
Cleanups.
Cleanups.
Yeah, so, that's all that's been done, Buck has let me borrow the sprayer and, take care of, invasive plants. But I just think, okay, so one, I think there should be some time where we can actually say about our parks. And 2, I think the rotation is just a little bit too much. And I also would kind of like, when the person says, okay, this is this kind of park. This is, I don't know all the different categories, but you look here and you say, okay, it's a nature park. It's a pocket park, and this is what it is. And the reason we did this was so everyone would be informed about all the parks. And I think we're missing a lot when we don't do it. So I don't like I'd like to see a little more things here on here. And I'd also like to see I think rotation this much is just, too often. And I don't know if it's necessary to give a report every month. I think, every 3 months or something like that would be adequate, but.
May I address, for clarity on some of your points?
Sure.
Great. So, as far as mentioning the communication about each of the parks for clarity between all of the commission members, the joy of how I envision this is because it's basically a check sheet. You can allow comments on it if you want to, but not everything applies to every park, so it doesn't need to be discussed or addressed. But since it will be turned in and could be included in the packet, it would allow every single commission member to see the notes on all of the parks if they want to. And then if there is something that really needs addressed, then we can have dialogue about it. So there would not be any actual reports per se given anymore. So all it would be turning in the assessment tool, which takes you a couple of minutes to fill out. And
I disagree
drop it
with
by.
that. If we go once a month, just driving there is going to take, 10 or 15 minutes, and then walking through the park and filling out the report. I mean, I can do that. I mean, there's some aspects of this I really like, as I said, I do like the idea of the rotation. I like the idea of having, some kind of consistency. But I also really like the idea of hearing what other people think about the park.
Which this does. So that's exactly what this does. But it allows everyone.
But not verbally.
They can if they want to, right? So that's why we offer time not to go through and do a full detailed presentation as we've done in the past, because that is repetitive information that doesn't necessarily have to be given every year. But if we want to, if we really feel like there's something that should be addressed and brought forward, you can absolutely add it on as an agenda item at any time. There's nothing that says that you can't do that. But not every park requires that, and it's not appropriate all of the time. This would just be a standard quick thing that can be done for all of the parks. And then the last thing that I just wanted to clarify is the rotation timeframe. And this one I actually mulled over quite a lot. I had initially proposed myself 6 months rotating time frame, so that every 6 months people would get a new park assignment. But considering the fact that the whole goal is that all of us get our feet on the ground in the parks more often, at least for a little tiny bit, 3 months seemed appropriate. And so again, the intention is, instead of spending hours and hours and hours, if you don't have it each year or each month to go through, do a deep assessment, do a deep presentation, go through the master plan, see what's been done in comparison, etc. You can spend 1 hour once a month go to the park, do a quick checkoff list, email it over or drop it by the office and you're done. If you want to do more and go above and beyond that, you're 100% welcome to do so because each park is different and each commissioner is different. This just gives like a standard baseline thing. And it wouldn't be preparing a report for any of these. I want to be very clear about that. You're not going through and creating a presentation. You're literally just checking off. Do I have a safety concern? Yep. And here's what it is, right? Is there trees that need trimmed out or is there dead trees? Yep. And here they are. Did I find, blackberries in an area that needs to be cleared for a trail? Yep. And here it is. Otherwise, that's really it. It's just a
You know, I
clear,
really like
clear,
those,
easy
I
assessment
like
tool.
those ideas. I think that's really good. But I think we're still missing the point. One of the reasons we initially did this was so we could be familiar with, with all the parks and tell people how they felt about them. I think it's a great idea that you go through, like, I could go to the holly plants, the blackberries, the poison ivy, there's one of the invasive plant there. But yeah, it's got.
Just put my 2 cents in. I like the idea of rotation of parks. But I also see, I'm kind of in 2 minds. Rotation I like because it's a more equitable distribution of parks. And that was my feeling when I first became a member of the committee that offered a couple of parks that, weren't, the big ones or anything like that.
They weren't maybe ones that you would have preferred.
Yeah, I'm not sure about that, but. On the opposite side of that is, you could somewhat diminish the work that's being done on some of these parts that are currently. And I would want to see that too.
Right, and that's,
So,
I really don't want to see anything
yeah.
diminish, which is why I clarified that it's not in no way intended to prevent you or inhibit you from doing
Yes.
work.
And about verbal assignments and all that are giving verbal presentations. And we could, not just have a park on the agenda each meeting. And you could have whatever, that's collated, quote from Buck, whatever he property made. And he could tell us, and then if we have any other things to add, we could have it at that time. Also, in the volunteer hours, right? I'm kind of confused by what I've heard that 15 hours a month is what I think Rachel Perry said. What they were looking for. And but these volunteer hours didn't have to actually be totally about the parks, just volunteer
Correct.
hours. So the documentation on that would have to be just on parks.
Well, this would encourage us to track and submit our volunteer hours. Like you'd be
Yes,
able to say whatever hours you spent doing whatever you spent them on.
Wanted, but don't follow through on myself.
Right, this is to help with follow through. And then Lynn has a question real quick, Howard, and then I'll get right back to you. Excuse me, Lynn?
Yes, first of all, I can't hear anything that Scott was saying. He needs to speak a little louder so I could hear that, but I think we're making this too sterile. I don't like the idea of rotating people on their parks because some people that have their parks right now can't even handle that. Even if they have one park, because they're not reporting on anything. There's nothing to do, maybe. There is nothing that can be changed. So, I mean, we all have there's different situations for every park. And so I think it makes it a little too sterile when you're trying to check off the boxes and turn this into maintenance and do this and do that. One thing that we all used to enjoy was hearing about what we were doing. And sometimes somebody, if they had to make, give an update on their park, they might say, well, nothing has happened so far. I'm hoping to do this, or, everything's going good. Park's doing really well. So I just think we're taking something away from what the commission usually used to enjoy doing, which was sharing that and giving ideas to each other, or saying, well, if you do this and this might happen, or can I come help you with that? That's what used to be done. And it was very simple. And we didn't take an hour to explain what we've done in the last year. We took 10 minutes. And then people can comment. But if we need anything outside of what we are able to do, such as go and get rock that needed to be laid, or a tree had fallen down and needed to be taken out, or something like that, that would be for maintenance, but that's not very often. So I'm just saying that part of the enjoyment of this commission is talking to each other about all this, and or not at all on your park or parks, whatever you have, because nothing is happening at that moment, and everybody understood that.
Yes, and I agree with you 100%, which is why I think this is actually a beneficial option, because some of the parks require very little attention and very little reporting. And so if one commissioner for the entire length of their time has a park that requires absolute minimal effort, but say they would love to do more, but they maybe feel that due to their responsibility to one park versus to another park, they're not able to. That's just a hypothetical example.
Yeah, no.
This would fix that. It also does not inhibit anyone from doing the additional things in any park that they choose. So again, it's not changing anything that you're already doing in regards to, if you want to go and lay gravel on a trail, you can do so. If you want to bring a thing up for attention, you can do so. It doesn't matter what park it is. This just gives everybody a minimum view, and changing the park's like responsibility for reporting. And it really is to encourage everybody to get their feet on the ground and go to the different parks. So
and I feel bad that you misunderstood when you first came to the commission about what was expected and how many hours and this and that. It wasn't really like that. It was like, if you came and say, oh, I want to do that, work on this park, but if anybody needs help, then, let me know. We were all trying to help each other in the parks. I mean, I've been to, whether it was Nob Hill or Botanical Gardens or anything, whoever needed help with something, you just were there.
Yeah, and I appreciate your statement, but I'm also not the only commission member in the last couple of years that's felt similarly as far as the lack of clarity for responsibility and expectation.
And that should be said in an interview.
I'd like to move on to Howard. He did have a question.
Well, it's just, I've been thinking of many more things. I mean, I do like the fact that more people would come through Nob Hill. I have some misgivings that, I spend a lot of time mowing and stuff, and during certain times of the year, if I'm gonna have to start going other places, that takes me time away from Nob Hill and mowing.
But you wouldn't have to do additional like work effort at the other places if you could.
But
still
1 hour is a lot of mowing.
Even an hour. What if it takes you 5 minutes or 10 minutes or
The other
15 minutes?
thing that I'm wondering how to say this, the check guards that Nob Hill is different than a lot of other city parks, because it's actually written in the Parks and Trails Master Plan that we help manage the maintenance.
Mhm.
And so I don't know how that would work. Hopefully we would still be considered and notified of things going on.
Mhm.
But if another commissioner came in and suddenly just had a real, or, oh my God, I hate that tree that's standing there that we've been nurturing for habitat. Could we suddenly come into the park one day and find it cut down, and somebody said, oh, it was pointed out that it was a bad tree, and so suddenly it's gone with no input from the people that have been helping manage the maintenance of a park for 20 years.
I appreciate your concern, but that
And
would not
that's-
be the intention of
I
this tool.
just feel like it just being micromanaging, and
Howard,
certain times of the year, it'd be really hard for me to give up an hour or two to go to another park.
Howard, I guarantee you, if they, before they made a move in Nob Hill Park, they would probably talk to you.
100%, because it wouldn't inhibit or overstep anything that the friends are already doing.
Yeah,
It
I'm
would-
just concerned it's gonna take time away, that certain times of the year would take time away from stuff that I'm doing
I respect
in
that.
in the park, that I would have to be feeling that I'm obligated for a certain amount of time to go to another park. Yes, I enjoy the idea that we see other parks and stuff,
Mm-hmm.
but rotating every 3 months to me is just way too often. It should be like a year.
But some of us aren't gonna be on the commission for that long.
Well, we hope they are,
I'm just saying, I'm just,
you know.
what term is
I
what, 4
mean-
years?
I would like to ask,
If I
Buck,
could just
oh.
respond to what Howard, with the tree, scenario you gave. See, that's, a bit of a problem because you're not giving the other commissioners this, a say in this. Cause you know, they might not want the tree. They should have the ability to do.
And then we're gonna be in here arguing over it for hours.
How about the concrete pipe?
that's not the intention of the.
That's just
Yeah.
what I'm saying, is that we
I
all
would-
have responsibility to each and every part.
I would
So
like,
This is just a way to do.
Well,
it.
and everybody's viewpoint is welcome, you know, it's just that I feel I feel micromanagement, more paperwork, and I am an anti-paperwork person.
I respect that also, and I definitely want to clarify, this is not for the intention of micromanagement, it's the intention for clarity and some standardization that I think would help commission members and future members coming on, because this is a standard tool that leaves zero room for misinterpretation, super quick and easy for our expectations. And so quickly, I'd like to see for input from Buck and from Brandon. And then I would also based on their feedback and whatnot, consider trying this out at least for 3 to 6 months and see how you guys feel about it, and do a reassessment, because again, what we're doing is always up for assessment and readjustment depending on how it works. And I absolutely understand your concerns and your hesitations. I respect that very much. And I really want to be clear that I want to take zero away from the efforts you're already doing individually or as a group and with your collective friends. Without that effort, our parks would not be as beautiful as they are. So this is not to inhibit that or to do anything to contradict those efforts either. This is a group communication tool, a quick checklist that Buck can review and be like, oh, do I got a thing to attend to or not? Cool. And if it doesn't apply to your park, you don't even have to mark it down, but just showing that we're taking that 5 minutes to look at the parks, this is the intention. So Buck, if I may ask you for feedback.
Throw me right in the fire.
Yeah.
Well, I see both sides of it, to be honest. As far as a checklist item, we use those to inspect playground equipment, so I'm used to that type of thing. One thing I wouldn't want is just a whole bunch of paperwork thrown on my desk that I've got to keep a bunch of paperwork. If electronically would be much nicer, but I don't know if everyone's capable of that. I think it's a good idea that people go to other parks. I think my personal opinion is if you're going to be on a Parks and Trails Commission, it's somewhat selfish of you to only spend 90% of your time in one park. I get the passion for the park. I love it. I love that people are involved. But I still think there's a whole lot of other parks and a whole lot of more acres elsewhere that might be able to use your help a little bit. That's part of your volunteering to be on this commission. You know, you took it on. You know, I mean, I don't want to sound like a jerk, but I've always kind of thought that way, that some parks get no attention and some parks get a lot of attention. And that's going to happen with population, use, age of equipment, things like that. But yeah, I mean, I think that the 3 months is pretty quick in my opinion, because 3 months goes by so dang fast. And especially I'm thinking, okay, October, November, December. Not big times to be cruising in the parks for at least someone like me. But I think if you did maybe a 6-month thing, try it out. And if you want to do oral reports on parks, get it on the agenda. I mean, that's why we have an agenda, and you can do that biannually, as long as it's not every month. I don't think we have that many parks. If it's keep it to 10 minutes. We all know Jerry gets a little long.
Hey, 5 minutes last time.
I don't know. I'd like to go back and watch.
5.5.
But yeah, I see both sides of it, and you know, I mean, you can sit here and hash it out forever. Some of you like it, some don't. You can vote on it. You can do whatever you want to do. I'm not telling you what to do. That just my opinion is the more eyes in the parks, the better. It's probably gonna be worse for me. I think, yeah, there's benefit to you guys all having your feet in every park in town. And I also think it's kind of your responsibility to be that way, whether it's a little smarter or not. If it's 6th, 7th Street and there's nothing there, I get it. But hey, if you're driving by, going to the store and you got 5 minutes, walk the fence line, see if there's junk in there, if there's needles in there, if there's, maybe see that the trees are trimmed, and you come back and say something positive instead of negative. I mean, there's positive things that happen too that we don't hear a lot about.
Exactly.
One of the fields is named after somebody. You guys, you know that?
Oh, the fields.
One of the fields is named after somebody. Yeah.
There's signs there.
Umpire, when I
Everyone
play,
got that in there.
Brandon, do you have any feedback or comments?
Yeah, so there's, similar to what Buck was saying, there's a lot of things about it. I can see are positive things. So again, each one of you is a member of the Parks and Trails Commission for the city of St. Helens. It's not as much as Howard, you're attached to Nob
I
Hill
know,
Park.
I know.
It's not Blumenthal Park.
Oh, I know that.
Everybody here should have a similar interest in what's going on in Nob Hill. So this is, if this is a way for everybody to get out there and rotate, and I'll talk about this a little bit later, but it's kind of interesting that you bring this up because we're having a similar discussion right now in city council. But if this is a way to get out and experience different parks and see things that you don't normally do, I think that's a great thing. So if you go to the Parks and Trails Commission page on the city website, it says the Parks and Trails Commission acts in an advisory capacity to the city council in matters pertaining to, and there's a lot here, the operation, planning, development, improvement, beautification, equipment, and maintenance of public parks, trails, public bicycle and or pedestrian ways, vacant park properties, public squares, public recreational facilities, and publicly accessible buildings and associated grounds. There's a lot to that. So we talk a lot here about parks, okay? Park, this park, Park A, Park B, Park C. But to me, publicly accessible buildings, we're talking about the police station, we're talking about the library, we're talking about the community center and the rec center. There's a lot more to this. So if there's a quick way that you guys could go and spend 15 minutes in a park and run through a quick checklist and say, this is what this one needs. And then I like the idea of having a standing item on the agenda and coming and saying, okay. And all of you hopefully would have access to these papers beforehand. You could look and say, okay, I want to talk about this at the next meeting. You can spend as much time as you want talking about it. If you want to spend 90% of your time in one park and go above and beyond, I think that's great. But I think it's not a good thing to be so narrow focused that you're just focused on one part of the city when, as a commission, you're in charge of all of the stuff that I just read.
that's interesting because it mentions facilities in there. Our safety committee does inspections on all of our facilities, so I don't know that a checklist would be really worthy of doing something facility wise and doubling up on that because the safety inspection has quite a bit on it and it's pretty thorough. So I don't know that that would be necessary. But I didn't know you said that.
Just cruising around and looking at the structures externally, or, you know what I mean? The
Right.
graffiti issues,
Sure.
looking at the signs.
No, I get it. If it's in a park or something like
Yeah.
that, but the police station, they're
Yeah.
gonna want you in there anyway.
Right?
You don't
And
want to
again,
be in there.
it mentions grounds, so
Some bits.
yeah.
I mean, I've been trying to mention about walking ability in this construction project, and basically I'm always shut down. Right now, there isn't a safe way to walk through that intersection up there. They got a trailer parked across the detour, the pedestrian detour. There's nothing to tell people that there's a temporary crosswalk anywhere up there. You're taking your life in your hands. There's absolutely no way to walk through that intersection anymore.
So one
And I
other,
get nowhere.
one other
I brought it
potential
up
benefit,
constantly over the last year. Nothing,
one other potential benefit that I was,
you know?
was thinking about today as I was finishing typing this up is exactly your point, Howard, in that there's the concept of like the squeaky wheel gets the grease,
Mhm.
right? But also what happens if the squeaky wheel just keeps squeaking, right? We ignore it. And I don't mean that anything individually to anyone at all whatsoever. It's a general concept. And so what happens with something like this is having multiple people viewing the things, right? Then it's not just one person saying, hey, I have this issue, I have this issue, I have this issue, I have this issue.
We've talked about this a lot.
Okay,
You know, the thing I said, I do like the idea that it gets us to other parks. I think that's a great thing.
Mhm.
I mean, I'm not opposed to that. I think every 3 months is a little bit too much. And if we're gonna do this formally, I'd like to put this, I'd like to see a form that you make.
Yep.
That, I can put on my clipboard and I can go there and I can say, okay, this is the park.
Yep.
This is the day that I did it.
Yep.
Look around and see it.
my
and then
intention.
Drop it off at Bucks.
Yep.
So you didn't say I didn't think you said you were gonna have a.
No, so
form.
that was gonna be the end of my,
Okay.
the end of my thing would be,
So,
if you
yeah,
guys
we need
are
to make this as simple as we can.
correct.
And I still think that. We couldn't even do this on a yearly basis, given our report. But I just think if we did every 3 months, I just think. Pretty soon it would be like, who's doing this now? Who's this? Who's that? So I'd like to see it. I'll take, I don't know what my suggestion is, but not every 3 months, either 6 months or a year. And we need a form to do it.
Yeah.
And the other thing is, how are we going to rotate the parks through? Is that just gonna be a random?
Name out of a hat.
It's so name out of the hat concept, except there's like a spinning wheel that I have on my thing. So I literally put all of the park names in it and then we go around the table and spin for Howard. Howard gets 6th Street. Spin for you, you get McCormick. Spin for you, you get, Gray Cliffs, right? Spin for you, you get whichever one pops up. And we just do that until all the parks are signed. And then that's it.
The other,
then the
the one thing
If I could, Jerry, if we could just give this some time to consider and then come back on the next one, so
Yep, so-
everybody can think through this and then.
What I'd like to
Yeah.
propose is today was discussion and to gather your guys' input, to listen to your concerns and questions, to gather input from Buck and council to see if they have any advice or things that they think is extra. Maybe we don't need to look at that. Anything they'd like to add on to the checklist concept, something, because I want these tools to be a benefit to Buck and actually make his job easier in seeing what we need and assessing whether or not our needs are getting met so that he doesn't have to listen to us complain at every meeting, right? It's quick and easy. And easy to keep track of. So if you guys would permit me, I would like to.
Well, I'm not done. God cut me off there.
So I would like to create the document, the checklist, and then bring it back for you guys to review.
Have some input, have people think about it, then come back
Mhm.
and then kind of brainstorm on the whole thing then.
Yeah.
Like, I know this might not be an exhaustive list of the assessments
Right.
and things like that, or.
Having a visual though, I think next time might help too
Yeah.
with some of the concerns and whatnot. So if I take the time to create the form, right, and then bring it back once you guys have sat and thought about this, and then you can see the form as a physical thing, it might help maybe quell some of the concerns or answer some of the
Yeah,
questions.
it's not just.
Right, and it's not in stone, correct, right? It has, and it's malleable. This is the joy of this, is it is forever malleable without any changes to the bylaws and without any permanent anything. And in 6 months, if we're like, yo, that was awful, then guess what? It was, and we don't have to continue to do it. But I've given great thought and I have done so much research on what could potentially be a quick and easy way for us to do the most benefit for our parks, keeping in mind our mission and purpose. And this is a potential tool. And I'd like to show you guys a completed form at the next meeting, once you guys have had time to digest it. And you can bring back suggestions right then. And I will gladly answer any questions that you may have in my vision and how you interpret it. Because I don't want to take away from anything. And you don't have to make a vote on it now, except perhaps give me your blessing to go forward and make a checklist for you guys to review.
So one thing, Dina, I know what, I agree that, we need to get to all the parks. I like what Brandon said there.
Mhm.
And I know that I'm pretty limited to 4 parks that are, downtown and over by my place. Those are the 4 parks that I go to all the time. I don't go on the east side hardly at all. But I do have, I didn't form a friends group because I don't want to do that. Too much work, too much hassle, it's, but, I really do have, I would like to see the botanical gardens have a lot of things. And I've for years, I've said the things I want them to have there. What's been done? No offense, I know there's no money. So, I'm not blaming anyone, Buck. I'm not blaming you for not getting those things done that I've mentioned, every time. But, I don't want to see this, take away from, specific interests. Like
Correct.
I know that baseball fields is a big deal there for
Yeah,
Virginia.
but like I said, this gives me a chance to visit our
Right,
farm.
no, I totally agree.
Visit at any time.
It just enhances it. It's not to take away any of that.
But the thing is, and I guess I can give it, so you're saying that every year, if I want to, I can give a report on the botanical gardens.
Every year, if you want to, you can give a report on the botanical gardens, and it can include any and all information that you want, including all of your recommendations, all of your preferences,
Perfect.
everything.
In fact, I'd say every meeting.
So this would not change that. This would not inhibit that.
Okay.
This would not,
As
well,
long
any
as
of
I
the
can
efforts.
verbally give a report on the
100%.
botanical gardens, I'll.
Absolutely can. So this is to enhance your passion project. If you have a park that you are absolutely passionate about and you want to put forth the effort there and make all of the things happen, do it, because we're all here for that.
So the other thing too is, I'd like to see a little discussion on this because I've heard, the way I feel, the way other people feel.
Mhm.
So how do people feel about the rotation? 3 months, 6 months, a year?
And let me clarify one more thing for the rotation purposes, right? So that means that if I have 6th Street Park for 3 months, that means for the next 3 months, I'm gonna go to 6th Street Park, fill out my checklist, email it to staff, done. And then 3 months later, I get Campbell Park. For 3 months, I go to Campbell Park once a month, fill out my checklist, email it over, done. But for the entire year, if I want to work on project A in whatever park I want, guess what? I'm still working on project A, and this does not inhibit that at all. But it also means that I'm not locked down going to Walnut and staring at the tree for an hour for a year.
Park for a year.
So I'm gonna get 39 reports a month from you guys?
So my goal,
Yeah, it's.
like what I'm envisioning is if we're gathering the information, right? Because not everything applies to all of the things.
Right.
Is we can hopefully have it scanned so that it's digital, but then for you, we only have like, hey, this park really needs this park really needs this, and this park really needs this. It's a summary for you to have a checklist and like an item attention, boom, boom, boom. But then we can go back and be like, oh, we addressed this back in May, literally, because here's the documentation for it, right? And it was addressed in June or not. And then moving forward for the potential future master plan, right? This is so much research information that would not have to be repeated and could save the city some good monies. And it shows what we're really working on with tools that show measurables.
I'm just thinking if.
Sorry, go ahead, Lynn.
So I'm just trying to figure out how this is different from what we do already when we need to notify maintenance about something. I just don't, and I go to any park I want to. And if I see something, I say it. But
So
How
Actually,
is that different from my email that I send to Buck? Say when we want to when we do a work party?
yeah, so that's actually a really excellent question. I'm very happy to answer that for you. So instead of sending Buck 100 emails a month from each of us sending him, a plethora of emails when that happens, right? If we notice a thing, this is also a tool that we can fill out, and because it's all submitted to staff to be compiled or whatever, or to me, whoever's chair. I mean, I'll take that on as an independent task so that they don't have the additional effort on them. Then what's great is that once a month for Buck, we can be like, hey, do, here's the things, so that he's not getting email after email after email after email at different times throughout the month. We can address it all at once. Now, if there's an emergency, of course, by all means, email him for emergent things. But this would actually, I'm hoping, diminish the amount of additional effort that Buck would have to do to address things or respond to people individually, hopefully lighten his workload.
Well, I'd like to know how many emails Buck gets from the commission a month.
It's not 100.
It was an exaggeration, my apologies, but.
I couldn't tell you that number without looking, but it varies. It's obviously a lot more in the spring and summer than it is the rest of the year. But it'd be rare to be over 20. Say.
Yes.
Just, not, this is, taking, it would probably be 9 hours out of the year. Look at all of our parks is not a huge ask for all of us.
Right.
No, I agree.
So I would like to,
But the thing is, what are we gonna talk about the rotation? Are we gonna stick with the 3 months? Are we gonna go to 6 months?
just, and then bring me your feedback
I
at the
think
next.
a year is
meeting.
too long. I'm not
Yeah.
sure that
You're still gonna be making a report every
3
month.
months or 6 months.
Doesn't matter what park it is, so rotate it every 3 months, 4 months,
That's a
6
good
months.
point. You're gonna
So
be,
you're
yeah,
still
I
reporting.
kind of thought of that a little bit.
And it's not even, it's not a report, right? It's not gonna take the
Well,
effort that we put in for the other
Don't
reports.
need to be so far.
Yeah.
So while we're thinking about how long the rotation should be, and we could talk about it next month, at
Yes.
the next month meeting, I make a motion that we move forward with
Thank you.
this. And then see the sheet that she provides us,
I second it.
and we discuss it next month and come up with a time frame.
I agree.
I second.
All in favor?
All right.
Any opposed?
Can't be the curmudgeon.
There were some things I didn't agree with, but I think you're right. As soon as you said, you gotta do it every month anyway, so.
Lynn, is it-
Yeah, Paul and Lynn, did you guys?
Oh, I have no idea how to raise my hand on this computer, so I've been trying to figure it out now for a half hour, so. Or an hour.
Do you vote in
I'm
favor
I'm
of
opposed.
creating a document for you guys to review next time?
Opposed.
Okay.
Paul,
Paul?
Oh, I guess, I mean, I'm fine with, I had some things to bring up, but it's a little late now, so.
We can bring it on next.
I mean, it's not gonna hurt for you, anything for you to move forward with it. We're still gonna have to vote on it, so.
Okay, and feel free to bring questions next time as well. I have no problem addressing any of them. Again, I want this to be a tool that benefits everybody. So okay, moving on, and I will bring that to you guys next time. All right, Milton Creek Reserve. Did we move forward with staff on getting the mapping?
I left you a message about that
You left me a message in my email, or
on your phone.
I did not receive one.
I talked to Scott. Scott told me to talk to you. He told me not to talk to you, but I did.
I come because he told me on Friday and I said, well, it's gonna be Monday anyway. So.
I did not receive a message. So what
Yeah.
was the
Can I
message?
move forward on that?
Yeah.
Okay. Returning you guys' pins here. Yeah. Oh, wow.
Well, they cleaned out my briefcase.
Yeah.
And I think we should also discuss a little bit more with, Brandon, honestly. Sundin brought up about our full scale, that was something that really threw me, it wasn't at first right when I first was apart. So, I mean, that's something that. Yeah, I know, it's badly.
It's been waiting discussion.
And I've mentioned them multiple times, the last several meetings, I read
Gets one of these.
it verbatim multiple times, and, which is why I've kind of focused on where we can clarify and intend to.
Again.
Um,
I'm gonna say, you know,
Here you just bypass me.
I mean, I was
yeah,
just gonna
What I
get-
do to you, sir?
but it shouldn't, that's
I
the
like your
intention,
idea.
is it should.
That's a good idea.
I'm only trying to.
So a number of months ago, I don't know, 3 months ago. Parks and Trails Commission met with the city council. And we gave them a review of what we wanted to do. Just our general idea about the Milton Creek Forest Reserve, which we started working on a long time ago. Lynn started working on a long time ago. And so the thing I want to mention about that is the city council said that the city staff would give us help with doing that. Sometimes with Buck, I've never had an issue. He's gone beyond the call, but sometimes with the city staff, I've run into a few issues when I've asked them just to do some very simple things.
Okay.
Not sure, not Buck. So then last meeting, there was a motion that I would contact Jacob to have him do a map. And so I decided, well, you know, before I met with Jacob, I would like to have some input from you guys. So one of my daughters made this map. And when she redid it for like the third time, she added a few things, didn't take away some things I wanted, but she spent a lot of time on this and I really appreciate her doing this. So this is a map of the Milton Creek Forest Reserve. This is a working map. In fact, I was gonna write working map, but I was been sick today and I fell asleep and woke up 20 minutes before the meeting and, oh, I got a meeting. This is a working map. I hope this map never, sees the light of day. Cause I am gonna go talk to Jacob. And so what I want to do is kind of go over what's on the map. And I want you guys to make a list and say, okay, when you go talk to Jacob, these are the things, I would like to see, on the map. To give you, okay, so I'll just kind of go. So take a look at the map that was passed. I don't know who made this map originally, but we've had this map around for a long time. The one that shows the riparian zone, the wetlands, protection zones, and the 100-year floodplain. So on the map, on the map, I took a pencil and I drew some marks that you see on there. So if you go down to this area and you go down to the area and you look over on the old Boise Cascade property there, you'll see a brown building. And if you look, you can see the brown building. It's kind of a tan building. And then directly across from that is a lollipop. Okay. This is not exact, but that was the road that the Boise Cascade employees used to go to, and I assume to park when they went to the Boise Park. Okay. So that gives you a reference. And I'm not saying it's exactly the right position, but it's fairly close. If you look down a little bit lower, you'll see 3 tanks there, 3 big round tanks. Okay. So basically west of that one tank, and on this map, the other map, that tank is circled in white. Okay, so you can kind of identify that. And that shows that across from that is where the Camas Meadows is. Okay. So I just want you to have that. Okay, so looking at the other map, when my daughter made this map and we discussed it, basically, we just threw the trail around the creek there, you know what I mean? So the reality of it is the trail really doesn't start till about where these trees are right here. And it pretty much ends at the, right at the west end of the Camas Meadows. So it follows the creek there, and then it kind of goes away from the creek where I drew in the felt line there. And it goes up to it and it kind of goes along the Camas Meadow there. And once it gets to the end there, it kind of ends. But Scott and I have walked this. You can actually pretty much walk once you get down to the end of this area, you can pretty well walk all the way down to the railroad bridge. I mean, it would be very easy to put a trail in there, okay? At least on the east side, it would be very easy. So first of all, this trail doesn't exist. You know, it's just kind of a concept, but just a portion of it does. Okay, the other thing that I did not talk to Jacob yet. I haven't talked to the port if we need to do that. This is just an arbitrary line right here, this dotted line. And when I was talking to Scott about this on Friday, he just says, oh, because he's talked to the port quite a few times. He says, oh no, they own a lot more property. Yes. And this trail that goes through here, there's no way it can just stay right close to the creek like that, because it's pretty rough over there in places and ups and downs. Yeah, and like Scott was saying, somewhere around here, there's a spring back here somewhere, and there's a wetland that goes here, and you'd have to kind of go all the way around it like that, but it's not a big deal for a trail, okay? If you look at this area over here on the east side here, the area that's circled in green, that is approximately where the old historic Boise Park was. If you go back and you look at this map here, the first one I was talking about, you go to the lollipop there, and the Boise Park was basically where the blue is there, where the 100-year floodplain is, and it went in this area right here. And if you go down there, it's really kind of cool, because if you go to the old, better bring a machete or something, you dodge some of this stuff. But if you go, there's a ridge that runs right behind here, and there's like 3 or 4 quarries back in there. A couple of them are pretty good size. And then along the trail that leads here, there's also, okay, so the Boise is roughly, okay, and so then you've got the Camas Meadow down here, which we didn't sketch that out. We should probably got it'd be very easy. That's one thing. Maybe can someone make a list? One thing we need to do is get the Boise. Scott, would you mind being the list secretary for me? The one thing we need is we need to know really where the port property is, right? Okay. That's one thing we really need to know.
I kind of have it marked out already.
Yeah.
It's this whole area over here.
Yeah.
It's all of that, and it's pretty much all just Camas Meadow.
Lot lines along here. With the, you know, these.
Oh, yeah, I can see those lines.
There's everything within that is our property.
But there's this road there's this road right here, Railroad Road, where the Railroad Avenue, where there's some lots that are right next to the road, which I would say maybe they don't own. I don't know. So one, we need to know the port property. Another thing we need to know.
I mean, we can ask Jacob to do that.
Okay, this is,
Info that-
yeah. That's one thing. He could, donate, you make a map that shows us where that is. Another thing is, he could probably make a better map that shows where the Camas Meadow and the park is. He has, really good tools for doing that.
He might not be able to do. No, but you like.
I'm willing to do this. I'll put in the time for this.
Okay.
Well,
Right.
what we're really needing right now too, just for the immediate ability to move forward on this.
Hey, let me finish.
Oh.
I was given this job to do. Let me finish, okay?
Apologies.
Okay. So if you look at this area here that's circled in white, that is approximately 12.1 acres. And if you included this, all this down here, which maybe that's one of the things I'd like to see, this right here. And when we did that, my daughter and I did that, it was like quite large. It was like, geez, I don't know, 39 acres or something like that. It was a huge, huge amount. The other thing is some things that, these are things we're gonna have to really think about in the future. If the trail is going to be a loop trail, we can go across the bridge up here on Milton Creek, because the city owns that and there's a walkway there. But if we're going to go across the railroad track here, one, we'd have to get permission to do that. That's something we gotta think about in the past. Or if we went all the way down to the port bridge here, and what's there is an old wooden bridge. It's falling apart, and then they put a very substantial metal bridge on top of that. But it's blocked off, but you can walk on the old bridge if you want to, take your life in your hands. It's probably pretty safe. So some things we gotta think about is, if we're gonna have a loop trail, how are we gonna get across the lower portion here, which, if we're just gonna have an out and back trail, we could just have a U-shaped trail. So,
Not the point.
yeah. So some things that we probably need to know, one is we need to know where the port property is. We need probably a little better idea of exactly how big the Boise property is there, because we just drew a circle there. And I think it's a little bit, I think this is a little bit bigger than the Boise property really that the park is.
We'll also need is to have the footprint of the PGE, that's power station there.
Yeah. So if I need to talk to John or Jacobs, yeah. Scott, where'd you say that was going? You thought it was going?
Right on the old slab.
Yeah, I mean, with the white topped structure there. And to the west and to the south. I believe, that's kind of the idea of where it's at.
Okay.
So it's going to impact a little bit of that lollipop.
Okay.
Or some of the trees there.
Okay. And I think, when you do this, the portion of this needs to be eliminated. It wasn't on the map originally, and then somehow it got there. And also from here on down, it probably doesn't need to be there. So what are some other things that you think needs to be on this map?
From Jacob, I think the 100-year floodplain would be on there. Also, the new environmental or for the fish, new policy is taken in effect on December 1st of last year. I'm not sure, it will be impactful for it, but I'm not sure how impactful or where that impact is. Okay, that was pretty much.
Council also asking for the number of acres.
That's why I circled the white circle.
I think they want just a solid number. It's 22 acres, it's 39 acres, it's.
Of which area, Buck?
Whatever you want preserved, whatever.
Oh, okay.
I think they want to know your exact footprint of what you want, like the boundaries and acreage.
Well, we need to find out, some of these things like the floodplain and, the PG footprint and that, to be able to get an idea.
Well, that was gonna be my comment, if I may, is that their specific ask was for us to give them a footprint for it before we can even move on to request that we reserve the area. And so, what I was hoping that we can do through our discussion with Jacob is show him a general idea of, where it is that we envision just the boundary to be. the outer boundary and the land that would be included, city side, right? Port side, walking trail, et cetera, that can be addressed later on, once we've moved beyond the first task. The first task is securing the land. And so going to Jacob, with our general, like, this is what I interpret as a potential boundary, where does it fit in with what the city has? And then once we agree on the boundary between our vision and the reality of what it could be, then get us our exact square footage, because then we can go to city council and be like, okay, so here's our square footage. Do we have your blessing to move forward to reserve it? Because that's the step we're at right now.
So what,
I think I mean, they agreed to it in principle.
yeah, they,
In principle, yeah,
so one thing.
correct.
One thing we could do here then, because, you know, I know one of the commissioners said, you know, we can't take all the property.
Right.
You know, so one of the things, Lucas, that I suggest and that we do is maybe take and draw, you know, a white line around everything,
Yeah, I already have an estimate for somewhere like that.
everything in there. And then maybe then, you know, put divisions in it. So, you know, this from here on up is, this section is 15 acres, this section's 20 acres, this, you know, and then, you know, we can see how much each section is in there. And then they can say, well, that's too much, but you can have, you know, you can have this area here.
Ask big and,
But,
yeah.
Yeah, no,
Big
but I
specific
think
area.
if you delineate it like that, they might say.
Gives them too much ideas.
Yeah. It gives them.
There's specific areas with this property that have more valuable and rare natural resources than others. And I feel like prioritizing those would be more
That
important.
would be another thing. Map.
Yeah, so I think if we could delineate out your high priority locations on the area, again, just kind of do this is our best guess dotted map of what we think is the most important to preserve. And then once we have that, go to Jacob and then he'd be able to get us actual numbers on the square footage. And then once we have that, we'd
The
be,
computers can do that, because there's like 43,000 square feet in an acre, you know, and if they delineate it like this, the computers will say, you know, if you draw a line around it, it says this is how much this land is. So I'd like to make a proposal. Lucas might not like this. So I make a proposal that Lucas make the changes we've talked about, you know, having one map that has, you know, floodplain, your floodplain, the carrying zone, the whole area. I got the feeling that people don't want to delineate the areas in sections because they think that we might, yeah. But, and then next month, Lucas brings it back to us. It'll probably take you 5 or 6 hours to do this.
Yeah, that's fine.
Okay, and he brings it back to us next week, next time. And we kind of look at it and you know, and talk about, and then once that's done, then maybe a couple of us could go and talk to Jacob and say, you know, and then we can move forward. But it really would be nice for us to kind of have a good idea of what we like, what we want before we go to the city.
a clear,
administrator.
concise, concrete ask prior to the meeting, I think is super appropriate.
I don't think it's that impactful.
Right.
He's not the decision makers.
Right. But him being able to visualize it and if we need to make adjustments based on,
Yeah, you'd be help in that.
correct. Because then we can have our final numbers and go to council.
And
Saying that it's just-
I'm one of these people that think, you know, we should be very open about everything we do. You
Yes.
know, and
agree.
I don't think we should leave Jacob, you know, out of the loop, because I think if we left him out of the loop,
No,
we could leave Buck out of the loop, but can't leave Jacob out of the loop. You know, I think that, you know, I think this, you know, the city council knows they got the concept,
Right.
but you know, Jacob's the one that's the planner. And, you know, if we left him out of it, I think that would be a slap in the face.
No, we can't. We require him at this point. Yeah.
Suggesting that, I think.
Yeah. So no, this is, our next step is to to go to him with a clear idea in mind of what we're asking, and then he can adjust those lines as required for what we
Give us
don't have
feedback.
access. Yep.
Give us feedback.
And then as a commission, we can approve if this is really what we want to ask for and what the total number is.
Yeah, that's a good idea. That's a good idea. I never thought of that. So say next month, Lucas brings us the map. Pressure on him. And then, you know, we could talk. I don't know if we should maybe go talk to Jacob and then have him, you know, come and, you know, say what his plans are. Because one of the reasons this has to be rezoned somewhere down the line too.
Right. Well, we can invite him to the next meeting potentially, with the updated map, and then have that discussion with, unless you'd rather
I
meet
think that's
privately,
rushing it. Yeah, I do too.
to have his input at the time that he brings the updated map.
I think that we should discuss that.
I might potentially be able to make it an interactive map that has some of the photos I've taken of the property that just show what is in this area too.
Yeah, but it'd be nice to have a handout so we can, you know, we can keep it in our files. So we don't have to go to our computer and get it up every time. I don't spend time on my computer very much.
All right, so I don't think we have to make a motion for him to move forward on making a map. If you'd like to do so, I think that would be fantastic, and that'll be a step towards our next steps. And thank you so much for all the work that you and your daughter have done on these maps. This is really helpful. Anything else on Milton Creek for now? All right, staff report.
A whole lot. Did everybody see Mayor Massey's letter to everybody?
Yeah,
Mm-hmm.
nice.
I think pretty nice for I thought. So we've basically been trying to rebuild all the sheds at the ball fields that are all rotten. 6th Street is on the way. 3 buildings on the Boise property that we're trying to get usable without investing a lot of money. We did Campbell's last year, and we did like 6th Street Campbell, we're putting a little more into this Boise lot. Who knows what's gonna happen with that property. That maintaining restrooms in our other building, getting ready for the Little League and softball. We did do some tree trimming at Campbell along the backside there down the road. Those trees were getting huge, and we did some around the parks. We still need to do more. We've been lucky to be able to borrow the county's chipper, since our chipper doesn't work real well. So that was very nice of them, and hopefully we can keep using it. Barlow asked about slick bridges for bicycles. I looked into that, and the bridge company doesn't recommend putting anything down that says it will seal, or anything down like someone mentioned roofing material or some abrasive. They basically weren't fans of any of that because it'll hold moisture and rot the bridge. They listed a few products that we can use. I've looked into some of those. Basically, all they are is a stain that does not seal. It's gonna let the wood breathe. They're expensive, so they're probably really nice stains, but I don't know that that will help the slickness at all. So I guess the solution that I have for that would be signage, which there is signage there. One of them, the sign's kind of junky, so I'm gonna order some new signs to be put there. There'll be smaller ones, and I think they have one of a guy wrecking on a bicycle, so that'll get their attention. The other one you asked about was the slick vault lids. The only real solution I found to that was having the vault lids be a diamond plate material, so it has a little bit of a raised steel to it. I don't know how much that would help with a bicycle tire traction, so I guess the best thing for those would be to try to keep them clean, and if we can, we have hot spots for them, let me know, and we can always put a sealant like we do on some smooth concrete surfaces, and we put, it's not sand, but it's an abrasive material like we put on the splash pad tiles so the kids don't fall down. That might help. It's worth a try. So Paul, if you do have faults that you find are hotspots or getting zones in your bike path, let me know.
Okay, will do.
Go ahead.
Oh, I was just saying, okay, I was just saying, agreeing with you, so.
Okay. And that's about all I have. The only other thing I'd like to mention is if we do get Jacob coming down for meetings, can we please put him near the top of the agenda so that his time isn't wasted?
Absolutely.
Appreciate that and have at her, counselor. Thanks.
One thing, I don't think there's a set date yet, but coming up probably in April, it's gonna be the board and commissions recognition, thank you thing they have annually, so as soon as we get information about that, we'll send that out to everybody, but please, if you can, do attend that, because it's our opportunity to thank you guys for all the work that you do and all the effort you put into your position here, so more information to follow on that. And I mentioned kind of the discussion that's been going on in city council, which again is similar to what you guys are talking about today. And we've got a new makeup on the council now. We've got a new mayor, so discussions have been going on about the way things have been done in the past and whether it's effective and whether we can do things more effectively. And so one idea that came up is whether our current liaison system, I guess, is working. There's a lot of cities that don't have any system like this. So the way it works now is the beginning of the year, the mayor says, okay, Counselor A, you're assigned to this, Counselor B, you're assigned to this. You keep that assignment for a year. I was assigned again this year to parks and also police. So one thing that's a little bit of a struggle there is some counselors are assigned to departments and other counselors are assigned to commissions. So I'm expected to come to commission meetings, whereas those counselors that are assigned to departments, they don't have meetings to attend. So again, that idea of fairness, is everybody doing the same amount of stuff? Also, what it kind of does is creates this this loyalty that, okay, so I'm in charge of parks. If something ever happened where we had all this extra money laying around, it hasn't happened yet, but do we give the money to the library or do we give the money to the parks? It's almost expected that I'm going to say, give it to the parks because I'm the parks liaison. Whereas I also represent the entire city. So I should be aware of what's going on in the library, just as I'm aware of what's going on in the parks or public works or any other department. So there's discussions about, is this an effective system? Or should we be doing something like you guys were saying, rotating? So rather than you guys seeing me every month, maybe every month or every quarter, you see a different counselor sitting here so that they're aware of what's going on in the Parks and Trails Commission, because otherwise they hear my little 2 or 3 sentence blurb at council. Most of them are focused on the library or focused on public works or whatever different area, and they don't really know what's going on in the parks or in the Parks and Trails Commission. So that was one idea, that counselors would rotate between commissions and departments so that they get a better idea of what's going on throughout the city and not just be narrowly focused on one particular area. So before we made any kind of decision, we wanted to get your guys' feedback and see if you thought this is working or if you thought something could be done differently to be more effective. So Scott, I see your hand up.
I always assumed that you make the right decision if you had a conflict between like the library here. I know you do whatever decisions be appropriate for whatever that is. So I have no qualms of you being there. So. Sure.
I absolutely love having council presence and input during our meetings. And I feel like a lot of the commission members here have a wonderful relationship with you just due to our history working on the commission with you. But I also think it's such a fantastic idea to build that relationship with the other commission members as well. And it gives potential opportunity to strengthen the unified force of everyone who serves for the city in order to get eyes on all of the things and to broaden our understanding of how all of the things work and get different perspectives just based on more visibility of what's going on in the city. So I'm obviously in alignment with that concept, considering the proposal that I made today. I don't think it's a bad idea at all, but it would also be very sad not to see you at all our meetings because you're always such a joy. So.
And see, so just like with the council, there's nothing stopping other counselors from coming to these meetings. Any other counselor could come, but that doesn't happen because they've got their own meetings to go to. So just like you guys saying, well, we can go to any other park we want to. The question is, do you though? So do you go to other parks? Do you, or are you focused on your park just because that's your assignment and that's where your mind is at? So I could go to the library board meetings if I wanted to, but I don't because I've got other meetings to go to, so.
Some counselors actually, view it online too, after the fact.
And that's the thing, I do watch a lot of the meetings afterwards, but it's different than being there in person and being able to
Like
participate.
he said, though, I'm gonna be honest with you, I just focus on my parks. I've never been to, Dalton Creek still. I haven't been to the Botanical Gardens. I've been to McCormick. I've been to Sixth Street Park. I've been to Campbell. I've walked through once or twice Nob Hill. Other than that,
What are you doing Saturday?
working.
But there's-
We'll have
The
another.
next day off is a week from Wednesday.
Okay, so
There's that idea too, that you don't want to step on somebody else's toes. So you're like, well, now it's our mayor is assigned to the library. So it's like, well, that's her thing. I don't want to butt in. I don't want to get involved where I shouldn't. So, where again, the city council represents the whole city. So any one of us should feel comfortable going to a library meeting or going, checking in.
I like,
So,
Brandon, I really like you. You're part of our commission and everything, but I'm kind of like Dana. I think it's, you can build more relationships if other people are coming. So, the other people rotate through here and I, we don't always agree. But I mean, everyone here, is concerned about doing the right thing. And I think it would really be nice if, if we got to know the other commissioners too, and they could see, our interest in the parks. Yeah. I think it's a good idea, Brandon.
I think it's a good, like you say, a good idea, a good opportunity for you guys to get to know the rest of the council and good opportunity for the council to get to know you and see the work that you do. So again,
It's just like giving the report verbally, it's just like giving the reports verbally. Which I'm going to do once a year for,
absolutely do it.
even though I'm not a friend of
But
the.
there's a difference being here and engaging in the discussion versus reading the minutes or watching the
Yeah,
video
there's a lot of
online.
difference,
Right?
when.
Yeah.
It's
when
important.
they're talking,
Brandon said about stepping on toes. I think that's what we've been tasked with
A little bit.
and what we've discussed about.
Now, I only approve it if you promise to like keep coming to the meetings.
again, no decisions have been made yet. We wanted the opportunity for each board and commission to chime in and just see what you thought. So we're just trying to see what would be more effective and give us the opportunity to get to know other departments and what everybody does and be again aware of what's going on throughout the city rather than just our specific area. So
I think it's worth the opportunity and it's something that we can reflect on as a city in the months to come and see whether or not it's working or not. It's,
I'm for it myself, even though I'm.
get your cardboard cutout, just sit here.
Yeah.
Just put
Picture on the wall.
You zoom in.
I'm sure more information to follow, but we'll be talking about that the next few months. So we'll see where it goes, but wanted to get your feedback anyway.
Are you done, Brandon?
Yep.
Okay, I have a question for you. What is the estimated completion time of phase 1?
Down here,
Yeah, the park, the whole thing, so it's opened up and.
so the park and river, the first phase of the river walk, we've been told is April. So that's what
They're scheduled for May, but they're looking to be.
what I've heard him say lately is April. So,
Okay.
yeah. And as far as construction, I don't have any idea what that timeline's looking like.
But the area down here, the
View
park
and
and
the first phase of the
phase.
river walk. April, May is what they're shooting for, and
Does
this
that include the far end then down by Nob Hill or
no, I don't believe so.
so that could be closed
No,
even
I
longer?
don't exactly know where the river walk is gonna end.
It is.
but,
Yeah, but our stairs, I'm just wondering when we should be able to use
I
the
think Public
stairs
Works or
down.
engineering could give you a better timeline on that, but.
So that's. In other words.
This is what, 3 years?
He's the project manager.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Well, I've been waiting anxiously for that big project to be done.
Any other discussion items? Yes.
We were talking about things we used to do. We used to do yearly field trips. We haven't done a yearly field trip since Sand Island, what, probably 4 years ago?
We used to do one a couple of years ago,
And I think it's the last.
2 years ago, wasn't it? Whenever they had the sand building competition.
Yeah.
When they had the sandcastle building competition.
Yeah, that was over 2 years ago. 'Cause they didn't do it last year and the year before we didn't do it. So it would be at least 2 or 3 years. Since the last field trip. My other one, since we're talking about, we have so many different things that we're involved in. I'm looking at as far as safety and walking. I almost wonder if. Some point we could have a consensus to ask the powers to be to give the pedestrians a little bit more safety. Up here, this intersection is terrible for trying to get through it to walk right now. You've got people that are using the Nome parking lot as a through street now to cut through there. So on that end, your walking way, the only way to walk over on that side is to walk through the parking lot where you got people that are driving through using it like a street now. And then up by where the Wild Current is, to cross the street there, there's a sign that says detour and they parked a giant trailer there. So that's the only other way across the street. There's no other crossings there. There's one in front of you, but the other day it said detour and there was a car literally parked in the no parking zone, wiping out being able to walk straight across. And I think we need to be saying that we need to be looking at a little bit more pedestrian safety during this time of construction rather than just going, oh, there's a trailer in the way, just walk around it.
Actually agree, the crosswalk in front of my studio is not clearly marked. And so there's the temporary asphalt kind of ramps from the sidewalk onto the street. But beyond that, there's no real visible guidance for where people could cross. And since there are no markings, there's no sign for vehicles to slow down or to stop. And so I've almost gotten hit and I've watched several other people almost get hit right at that crossing. I do not feel it is a safe crosswalk.
So I don't know if we could make a quick motion that we'd like to say that we'd like to see a little bit more safety and input put into pedestrian traffic during this construction in those areas to have safe pedestrian travel.
And whether that's something you guys wanted to do individually, or you could do it as a commission. I would recommend, have you talked to Public Works or have you involved them in the discussion?
I
Or
mentioned it to those people and they're sometimes like, oh, it's a construction area.
is a commission, you could request that the Public Works Director come to your meeting and you could share your concerns as well. Again,
Thing
that
is, it's a situation that's going on right now today. If we wait a whole nother month.
that's my thing, is that's a month away.
Right.
One of the questions I have about that, I mean, I think it's a great idea. Pedestrian safety, but is that our role?
Yeah, walkways.
Walkways,
Walkways.
yeah,
It's explained.
open spaces.
Walkways?
Very much.
It is.
Yeah, very much so.
Mhm.
And so, is it something that we would require, like a motion and approval to make a recommendation that Public Works,
Any
clearly?
one of you could send an email to Mohammed and say, I have a concern. He's
Well, I mentioned it off and on over the last little while at different times and it just repeatedly keeps happening.
I can
that-
send
that
it,
they-
I can send an
they-
email to Mohammed, tomorrow.
Yeah.
Well, do you want to make it a,
Do you guys have anything that you would like me to input or to put into the email for Mohammed?
Yeah, so we want to emphasize pedestrian safety and.
but if this is
walking
coming,
in
if
the
this is coming
neighborhood.
from the Parks and Trails Commission, we need to have a motion.
Okay,
Yeah,
so,
well, we can have you as our representative, we can make a
Mm-hmm.
motion to discuss this. We'll have more effect if we have the old way of the commission. Yeah.
so would anyone like to make a motion to have me be a liaison, send an email to Mohammed addressing, sidewalk safety during construction?
Make a motion as stated.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
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 And I've got a couple of other things real quickly.
Okay.
Paul got his hand
I know,
raised.
Paul has had his hand raised.
Really? I can't believe that Howard has something to say.
Oh, you finally figured out how to raise your hand.
Oh, you did? Oh.
Yeah. I had a question too.
Okay, Howard, real quick, finish his questions and then, Paul and Lynn.
The next one that we have to be starting to think of is I wonder if we need to come up with better dog signage in our parks. I've been having a lot of problems with people in our park now, running their dogs, having a leash around their neck. And when I say, geez, this kind of nature, I really prefer that your dog is on a leash, they're totally taken back that I'm even asking them. And then I'd also like to know if there's a way for us to get out there and publicize it more, that maybe in one of the city's newsletters or something, that we could start trying to explain that in our city parks, there's a 6-foot leash rule. That it's not whatever they want it to be. Got people that are walking dogs on 20 to 30-foot cables that aren't even retractable, which a correct leash is retractable. And with the waterfront walk getting done more, we're starting to get more people that are coming up into the park with off-leash dogs and chasing our animals.
I would recommend making a list of your concerns for things like that you want to go out to the public, and get them to Crystal King, or get them to me and I'll give them to Crystal and she'll put it right up in our.
Okay, that's what I think we need to do then. Okay, thank you.
Great.
That's it.
All right, Paul.
Oh, right on. Hey, I'll make mine quick. It's I just have a comment and a question, basically for Buck. I was out on a long run yesterday, and I mean, unless I've just been a while since I've been around that area, it seemed like there's been some cleanup along the stretch of paved sidewalk, I guess you'd call it, from downtown on Old Portland Road, heading out towards out of town. So yeah, I was just gonna make a comment and say I noticed it looked like somebody been cleaning it up, because it looked a lot cleaner than it was the last time I ran by there. So is that the case? I guess somebody been
The S turns on between 4th and 6th Street.
from the John Gum, you know, when you go around the corner, they're always deep. Yeah.
Rock wall is.
Yeah, the rock wall. That's always kind of a mess through there with debris and stuff on that sidewalk, but it looked pretty nice and clean. It looked like to me somebody had been cleaning on it or sweeping it.
That was Public Works operations. They shut down
Okay.
one lane and cleaned it up and took some trees down and stuff. Yeah.
Okay. Okay.
That was
And
what, a
then
couple
that-
months ago, wasn't it? I think, yeah.
Yeah, it's been a while since I ran by there, so you know, I just noticed it. I just wanted to comment about it and say, yeah, it looked nice, it looked great. I think I brought it up once before, maybe a year or two ago or something about it, that stretch through there. So I just wanted to make note that I did notice it. And then the other thing that kind of hit me a little bit was especially when I was running along that rock wall there. I'm assuming this is I guess maybe a concern, but just a question about, I'm assuming the city has some kind of a protocol in place in terms as it relates to trees. I don't know if that falls on the Parks Department, but there's some gnarly looking trees and branches when you're running across there, and you hear weather, stuff. Just making sure they got some kind of an inspection program or something. They go around and they know if a tree looks bad or a branch is dying, it could fall and hit somebody or fall on the road or something. Is there something in place in the city?
Yeah, I mean, we look at them, of course, but
Okay.
It's more complaint driven. Like,
Okay.
we happen to see them, that type of thing. But yeah, those trees there, they're kind of holding up the wall and not holding up the wall. It's a strange situation.
Right.
We did trim some of the dead ones down to try to keep trucks from hitting them and things like that.
Right. Okay. Yeah. It was nothing. It was I just kind of just made me think when I was running by them. I assumed that somebody's keeping an eye out for that stuff. So, or like you said, or complaint driven. If somebody in the community, I guess, sees something that doesn't look good, you let somebody know, I guess. But that's all I had.
Also notice in the same area that there's a lot of garbage where people were parking last year for like Halloween Town. It's not from Halloween Town, but that area almost needs some type of a solve cleanup walking through there, because there's a lot of trash.
And clean it up a couple times. I think that's just where people throw their McDonald's nowadays. I don't know.
Yeah. I mean, I've been ready to go do that myself, but just.
All right, Lynn, did you have something?
Yeah.
Okay, great.
We're gonna have a Downton Lake Nature Preserve work party on March 8th from 9 to 12. And I'm proposing a Japanese garden work party on April 5th, 9 to 12. They're both on Saturday. And I was asked to give a presentation on Downton Lake Nature Preserve at Earth Day in Scappoose.
Could I say one thing, Lynn? You're, if you do it on the fifth, oh, I guess it's in the morning, but that's the same day that we do the Nob Hill Nature Park work
Then-
party.
When we repeat those,
Saturday in April.
Okay, it was March 8th at Dalton. Or excuse me, yeah, March 8th from 9 to 12. And I had April 5th from 9 to 12. I was trying to bypass the spring break for the kids because that goes on for about 3 weekends, where people leave for vacations and that kind of thing.
Have two work totes for dueling events then is my next question, since ours starts at 1 and theirs ends at noon.
I can make another one if you need another one.
That would be great, especially if we're encouraging more people to do more work parties.
Yeah, because we've kind of we're always the first Saturday in April, so we kind of prefer not to have competing events on that day.
Well, I can go ahead and revisit that then.
Okay, thank you, Lynn.
Well, and Buck said he can make an additional set for cleanup, so yeah. All right, anything else before we can adjourn for the day? Thank you all, and please feel free to give me any input as I work on my project for the month, and thank you for everything. We can be done.
It's.
Bye.
I gotta run. I gotta fly. Thanks.
Late, and don't get me wrong, I appreciate all the work.
Block and a half.
It changed.
That's all I-
Yeah, well, and that's